So thank you, Kai. And now I want to take you on a journey to Kosovo and present you the actual state of our case study in Ulpiana. First, I'll start with the localization of Ulpiana and its protection zone and give you a short description of the excavation area. Afterwards, I will describe the political and socio-cultural circumstances we are dealing with in Ulpiana. And finally, I will present the actual state of the project and give you an outlook for the forthcoming steps. So as you can see here, the Kosovo is situated in the Balkans, south of Serbia and north of Albania and Macedonia. Since 2003, the region of Kosovo belonged to Serbia, but declared its independence in 2008. Its capital is Pristina. The late Roman city of Ulpiana is situated 7 kilometers south of the capital of Kosovo, of Pristina, and is part of the municipality Gračanica. The administrative center of the municipality is Gračanica city, and just to have an idea of the size, it has more or less 11,000 inhabitants. Louder?
A little bit.
Okay. More or less 11,000 inhabitants. So it's not that big. Sometimes it's called like a village. And Ulpiana, the site of Ulpiana, is situated next to the settlement. To quote UNESCO, which made a Kosovo survey in 2003, Ulpiana is the most important archaeological site in Kosovo and one of the most important sites in the Balkans. Its remains are spread on an area of about 300 hectares, that means protection zone included buffer zone, which is here marked in a red line. With a blue frame you can see the excavated parts of Ulpiana. Until today, is it identified the late Roman fortified city, a castrum, a northern and western necropolis. As you can see, today the area is divided into 3 parts because they are leading 2 roads from the east to the west through the area. And until today, only the part north of the northern roads, northern street, their excavations have been carried out. This fact will become important when we talk about the management plan for the area. But for the moment, let us have a closer view on the excavation site. The largest areas excavated belong to the northern necropolis and the north of the fortified city. Here we have the northern gate as one of the entries to the ancient Roman city, a temple and a basilica, and further south another basilica and a baptistry. Here's some actual pictures from the site from last September when we visited Ulpiana. And when we think of Ulpiana as an archaeological park for tourists and the development of a management plan, we first have to consider the political and socio-cultural circumstances of the region Ulpiana is situated in. Let's start with Kosovo as a state. Kosovo declared its independence in 2008, but until now, only 110 of 193 UN member states and 23 of 28 EU states recognized its independence. So Kosovo tries to get recognition by getting membership status of international organizations like World Bank and International Monetary Fund. But since Russia and China still don't accept Kosovo as an independent state, its accession to most of the international organizations remains barred. One actual example is the rejection of membership in the UNESCO in November this year, when only 2 votes more were needed for the necessary majority. So coming to Kosovo and the municipality of Gračanica. As you can see here, most of the Kosovans are Albanians. It's a dark brown color. But there are also some Serbian enclaves here in blue, which don't recognize Kosovo as independent state. One of these municipalities is Gračanica, where Ulpiana is situated in. In Gračanica, they are living 85% Serbs, only 3.7% Albanians, and Roma, Ashkali, Egyptians. So Gračanica is a cultural center for Kosovo Serbs living in the central part of Kosovo. That means that one of the circumstances we are dealing with is that Ulpiana is situated in a Serb municipality, but the responsibility for the heritage has a Kosovo Institute for protection of cultural monuments. Another fact is, as you can see here, 77% of the land in Gračanica, and maybe here in Ulpiana at least 100%, is used for agricultural purposes. That means that every field you can see here is owned by another farmer, a Serbian farmer. Only the part of the northern city gate is owned by the Kosovo Institute for Protection and Cultural Monuments. So when we think of development of Ulpiana, of a touristic site, we have to think about what about the land. It's owned by the Serbian farmers and not by the Kosovan government or by the institute. So at the moment the institute rents some parts from the farmers for 10 years more or less, but they are only rented, and they told us that they can't buy it. So you have to think of a perspective. What can you do when you have the land only for 10 years? That's a big problem we have to think about. And the situation at the moment is that the shown parts of the northern necropole and the northern part of the Roman city are excavated. And there's a big political pressure because it's the most important site in Kosovo to open one part, the excavated part of Ulpiana, as a touristic site in 2016. That's why the Archaeological Institute of Kosovo also made restorations of the excavated parts. So you can see it looked restorated, and they also began to make ways for the tourists. And they made a touristic fly, you can see on the right hand side, and they also developed the first sketch of a management plan, which we discussed when we went there in September. But since they are Albanians and they still didn't involve the Serbian community, so Serbians and Albanians avoid to talk with each other. And that's why we want to take the role as a mediator, to bring them on one table and to talk with each other. And as you can see here too, the sketch of the management plan includes only the excavated part, but not the whole area of the monument site. But the geophysical prospections and the analysis of the aerial photos show that there are a lot of more features of the ancient site that maybe is to be shown someday, not at the moment because of the property problem and so on. But there is a lot of more. So when we think of a sustainable management plan, we can't only consider the excavated part at the moment. So we have to develop a management plan for the whole area and take off the part of the excavated, which is excavated now, as a part of a whole management plan. But when we do now management plan only for one part, then maybe in 5 or in 10 years we have to do it again, and that's not sustainable. So our role is to support our Kosovan colleagues as being a mediator between the Serbian population and the Kosovan institution, which cares for the heritage. And furthermore, we will give them support in developing a management plan for the entire area. To begin with, we will meet the mayor of Gračanica to ask for support of the Serbian community. And what is good, they worked out a development plan for the municipality where they named Ulpiana as a touristic site, so we know that the municipality of Gračanica want to promote Ulpiana as a touristic site. So there's a base to work with them together. And afterwards, we want to hold a workshop to inform the community about the project and get a first impression of their ideas of the archaeological site. We also like to carry out a community survey, like our Netherlands colleagues did it in Tel Balata, But first we have to find neutral people who can do this or who can help us with it, and who can bridge the gap between the Albanians and the Serbians. Therefore, we want to cooperate with local NGOs and university, as they are NGOs who deal with social-cultural circumstances in Gračanica. We know it, but we are still not in contact. And they are also in the University of Belgrade. There are courses for Serbians to learn Albanian, and they wanted to do courses on Pristina for Albanians who learn Serbian, and maybe with the universities who are thinking further and thinking we have to talk with each other, we have to learn the language, we can do a project for a community survey. And yes, and on the parallel side, we want to invite our Kosovan colleagues to Germany to visit some archaeological parks, that they can see how we do it here, how our archaeological parks here, and to give them ideas and talk with them how we can do it in Gračanica. So thanks a lot.
Questions? Isabelle? Yes, yeah? The obvious one, how does what you're talking about connect with what you mentioned before about governance and difference in Europe, I guess, between? Because what you're doing there strikes me as an answer to what Kai was saying before. Do you think that you have some kind of, in what you're talking about, have a response to what Kai asked before about the difference in Europe with the sort of governance structures and so on? I guess you would say they put a layer of between people and heritage, really. Is that what? That's what, yeah. I mean, you seem to have worked through the layer or around the layer, or do you still see the layer of government, I don't know what you call it, interference or blockage or something as a problem? I mean, are you?
I think the most problem is that we are in that Ulpiana is a Serbian community, but we are in Kosovo, and the institution is Albanian, and that we have to gap. They don't speak with each other, and that's the most problem, I think.
Yeah, but are you able to what, are you,
no, maybe Fritz can say something to that.
I understand Australian.
I recognise the words.
Because Kai's point was that you do perhaps in Europe, or at least parts of Europe, have a different situation from those of us in other parts of the world, where this layer of government, people on the ground say, we don't need to be worried about this because the government does it. Whereas you are in a situation where you really have to work hard to bring everybody together. Do you think you've got lessons from what you do, an admittedly very difficult situation, for the sort of question that Kai was asking before? Or is this an exception?
I think this is an exceptional situation, and you cannot really compare this with other situations within Europe. I mean, not in this this sort of archaeological context. This is about highly political pressures and demands from both sides. Of course, there's a basic interest. If you once you sit in a bar and drink a coffee, everything becomes very easy. But the moment you raise to a sort of administrative level, you depart into completely inverse directions. And although the goal is the same, the way will be very difficult, and there is not one way. So what the reason we think we when we asked our Kosovan colleagues, how's your relation to the administration? They said, it's wonderful. So who did you talk to? Oh, we don't need to talk to. We know it's good. So then it becomes difficult. So that it's not the matter of wording. It is just that they have two positions, and we have to accept this. And although the binding, I would say, is the welfare for the heritage, and the heritage, because it's Roman, is not political. There is a basic agreement on both sides, and there is also a basic agreement that this should be used to increase tourism, and it should create jobs, and all these beneficial points are absolutely agreeable. but the way to get there is possibly a complete different one that we can imagine in our parts of Europe. And we have to accept this, and this is, I think, something we need to talk during the course of the NEARCH project. There is not one way. If you have 190 states in this world, you will have at least 190 ways of doing it. And some may be more similar than others, but you have to accept that each state, and of course each population, has not only the legal right to do it, it has the moral right to do it. And we have to accept and understand that the background comes culturally from everybody's own side. I would not say there, who's there? You know, the word there is already wrong. Everyone has his or her own right to do this, and we have to carefully think what guidelines or standards mean, and how far guidelines and standards implicitly affect traditions, and whether we are in a good position academically or however to promote this. This was a very short answer. Right, this is my friend.
I made a mistake. No. Another question? I have a question after, yes?
Yeah, just a small question, and I think this refers back to what you just said, Fritz. Is the site also, I mean, in the management plan and for the inscription, is also the goal to actively involve both the Serbian and the Albanians together to, connect together? Or is this just an objective site which accidentally more or less benefits for both groups?
This is a very difficult question, and I mean, if I was a politician, I would say yes, of course, this is our aim. But no, I'm not a politician. In the first part, in some way, we are all acting politically. No, I would say this: what we want to do, or what we think we need to do, is make both sides aware of the needs of the other side, and to come back to our discussion with our Kosovan colleagues, of course they have a direct access to the population, not to the administration, but to the population, because the owners they rent the land from are part of the population of them. Now, how we ask them how is the benefit, and say, oh, they all see the benefit. So the ones who rent out their land for use as a park, they get a direct financial benefit. That's their benefit. The second group is the workers who work on the site, and the third group is those people who are going to guide on the site. So we have three groups that take a direct benefit. But are they representative for the community?
Yes.
That is something we want to find out. Of course, I mean, it's like, if Kai pays my bill, he's my best friend.
I never do that.
That's why he's not my best friend. No, to come back to the basic line, to answer your question, I would say it is hidden in a political context, but we as archaeologists can promote talking to each other. But what they decide and what they in detail talk to each other and agree upon, that's not within our scope.
No,
Yes, I have a comment also on almost in the same line. Of course, this is depending on the situation our own institutions are. And the DAE is clearly, if I'm right, depending on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So clearly the DAE, in a sense, has a mission in these foreign affairs. When we are outside, we are kindly representing France, but we have not a mission of being a strong key actor of French foreign affairs. And I think there is a huge difference in what you're doing or what you can do as a faculty of archaeology. Is how in our countries our foreign affairs are conducted institutionally. And there we have major differences in between our countries.
No, but there I have to speak against, because we are not a governmental institution with a direct mission, as you say, from the Foreign Office. If you look to the statutes, and it is played that way, and the ministry really keeps out of any scientific bond. We are a scientific research body under the umbrella of the Foreign Ministry. Now, we're not going out and producing revolutions against our government. That's not happening, and we don't have a mission. But in our statutes, it says one of the goals we do is we giving the platform for scientists in the world to communicate with scientists inside of our country. So we are connectors, but we have no mission.
Mediator.
No, we are mediator, no mission. We have no missionary background.
Another comment? Last comment? Yes. Okay, let's go for the next. Thank you very much.